Having a break from the cockpit section. Although it's almost done, I just want to do something else for a while, so I've gone back to the fuselage. I'm putting in the intake plates. So you got three little actuators that go in. You clearly see which way they face, and you got the plates go in. So you got locating positions on them. So this is the rear one. You got the two grooves that will sit on those grooves, the raised sections, and then the actuator needs to fit in to that front section there. And the front one, it's narrower at the front. It'll only fit one way anyway because it's the width of the part it's fitting into. Same again, that those two actuators have got to fit into those. I've also built up an engine because I need to know when I get that far, which is the next page I think, how far the resin engine goes in. So for comparison, I'm going to use the plastic one, just making sure I get it right. I don't want to mess it up. The instructions they show you where to cut it and everything, but they don't really show you much about where things go. That's all they show you. And also, when you have done that, you can put the intake on, but you need to, well, you don't have to, but be easier to paint in here before it goes on, just for simplicity, because you can't get it that one. Not that you'll see it anyway, but so if you want to paint it, do it when it's off. Right, on step 5 of the instructions, they call out for you to remove some plastic along the this section, because this piece sits in, it's like on the aircraft that can come out, but in the instructions it's just shut. Honestly, I don't know if it's what it does purpose. Is it a spoiler or something for the aircraft in flight to help it slow down, or what, speed brake type thing? But that's the bottom fuselage, and unfortunately I started trying to trim that down. I think this is just don't seem right. And then if you look at the top fuselage, you can see there's a recess section. That's what you got to take out, the top one. If you take that out, that's the perfect fit for that part. So I got caught out, don't you, if you're building it. So I've made that flat, and the opposite side I've had to, well, I've trimmed started trimming the correct one in on there, but I didn't trim it all the way down on the top because I've done the bottom. That's not, yeah, that's close, but so I'm gonna have to try and clean the bottom up just a bit more there. But you can see that part, that's how it's supposed to fit. But yeah, it's the top piece, so instructions are wrong, and I should have looked ahead, which I have a bad habit of not doing. These are just loose at the moment. They also are them, just be aware, they call out the part numbers. I'm not sure now if they had them back to front, but they'll only sort of sit comfortably one way, so you'll be able to work it out when you're putting them in. So but before I glue them in, I got to clean up these seam lines, because when you look inside the intake you can see that. So I've started gluing the intake trunking on. I've just got to do the actual entrance of the intakes yet. It's a bit, you have to do it a bit at a time, because it's pretty, they're very flexible, and it's not just a smooth fit. Back here was okay, but up here you need to get some adjustments and things happening. And I'll have to cut, I'll just cut the engine off the front there and put it in, because you can see the fan inside, and the resin engine will need to be flush with this part at the back, and then the resin nozzle sits on that piece, which is flush, so that's the right size, thankfully. However, these pieces will need to be filed out, because the resin engine is way bigger than the plastic one. So if you try and put that in, that's not going to happen, and that will fit like that. So basically you can just, if you wanted to, you could glue that in, and then after you file that down you can get that, so you know where your resin section needs to sit. So yeah, bit of progress there. Right, I've started to remove this plastic in here, that little bulkhead that holds up the kit engine. So I'm just using that USB Dremel with a sanding wheel on it. I don't think I need to take it down to the bottom, but you need to get it that it's so what I just dry fitting this, that'll sit on there and that'll go in, but at the moment it's a bit of an angle, so I just need to make sure the resin engine sits nicely. But yeah, that makes short work of that. I've glued up just the front of the other engine, the kit engine, and when it's dry I'm just going to use a razor saw and just cut it off wherever, just because you're only going to see just the front of it. You do need that framework of the engine though. You can't just put the fan in, because the fan sits inside that engine, so you need that. I've had to put some putty in these, but what I've done, I'm saving myself some time. Is it this side? No, it's this side. You can see how it doesn't want to fit that way, but it'll fit flush that way, so you know which side's which. When you look in, you can't see the top, but you can see the bottom. So I've sanded that down, but there is a seam line, but I'm not worried about it because you're not going to see it. It's just saving myself a bit of time, because when it's sitting on the ground, you're not really looking in there anyway. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep working this engine. Seeing I can't glue these in today and paint them up, that'll have to be in my next session whenever that comes around, and I'll just do some other gear that I can on it. Alright, so what I've done is I've taped these fuselage sections that wrap around the engine just to hold them in place, so I get it all right. I've used Vallejo metal colour burnt iron. This is a colour I like to use for the inside engines, so you can see that's the colour, and this just clips in the end. It's really tight, but I'll add a bit of CA glue in that, make sure it doesn't come off. And then what I did was, this one I've put CA glue on what's left of that little bulkhead, and then I just push that engine through until I'm happy with where it's sitting. So that's where it's supposed to sit. And then later on, not yet, because I don't want to break these, so they go on near the end of the build probably. And then they'll just glue on there. So beautiful, a nice upgrade from the kit. As a backup, even though they should hold where they are with the CA glue, if you give CA glue a hard enough bump, it'll come apart. So just as a backup, I've glued some plastic card in the behind the engine and put some white glue on it, just as a backup to hold it in position in case it cracks on the bulkhead section there. So that's all I'll do on that section there. I'll sit it upright to let it dry off properly.